I think we've been sold this massive lie that you need to monetize your passion. And if you do what you love and turn it into a career, you'll never work a day in your life. But I really don't hear nobody talking about what happens when you actually get what you wanted, only to realize that you built your own personal prison and you end up hating what you loved. And I'm speaking on this because that's exactly what happened to me when I moved out to LA and then broke into the music industry. And a hard truth that I had to sit with, and I think a lot of people should sit with, is maybe turning your passion into a career isn't actually the dream. So let me explain, because I almost turned mine into a career. Now, growing up, I always loved music, and I've been playing instruments for like 11, 12 years now. My grandpa was a big musician. My cousin was in a band, and he's still in a band till this day, and he's pretty successful with what he does. It always ran in my family, and it was just something I genuinely loved when I was a kid. Like, no one gave me that identity. That was something I developed on my own and really loved to do. So around my teens, as I'm playing instruments and everything, I started making beats, right? And I'm actually good at it. I was catching on to it pretty quick. Like, I already understood music theory and, everything that comes along with that, right? I started to do music engineering as well, and eventually started running my own sessions, and that's what I became known for. It was actually how I supported myself through everything, right? And the reason it became so important to me is, like, not only was this my passion and something I did forever, but also throughout my darkest times when I was struggling with addiction, when I didn't know if I was going to live, and just everything that was going on there, when my life was an absolute shit wreck, I still made music. That was the one thing I still showed up for, despite everything that was wrong in my life, right? And so this had meant a lot to me. And when I decided to get sober at 21, and I've told the story already on this channel, and if you're new to this video or this channel, I basically got sent across the country to treatment, right? And started a new life from scratch at 21. So when I found out I was getting sent to LA, I was so excited, because not only do I get to restart my life and actually get a fair chance, I also was gonna be in LA and I make music. Like, it was a golden ticket for me to just go and chase my passion. And call me whatever, call me dumb for walking away from this, because I understand I had an opportunity that most people don't get. But I don't hear people talking about what happens when you actually do get to that point of making music or your passion, your career. While I was out in LA and getting my life together and everything like that, I had a lot of friends back home who had been out here before and everything, and I started hitting them up, like seeing who their connections were and everything. So I started getting my foot in the door. Like, I was getting into that world out here, and I'd met this one engineer through a few friends of mine who had worked with like Trippie Redd, Childish Gambino, Sway Lee, and a few other big names. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but this dude, I started kicking it with him and going to his studio sessions and working in these big studios, like actually seeing what this was like. And I was so excited at the time too, because I'm over here chasing my passion. I'm turning what I love doing into a career. But now you got to think, what I'm doing is now tied to my status and my identity. It's now tied to my income. And I started wondering if I even loved music anymore, or if I just hated what it turned into. Because throughout all of this, I'm going to events as well, and I'm seeing the nature of the music industry, which I'm well aware the music industry is a dark place, and I was being kind of naive and optimistic about going into this. Because now I'm at these events, right? And there's tons of people using drugs. There's very egotistical people. There's groupies everywhere. Like, very, to be honest, very unlikable people, right? And might I say, I'm getting older. I am been sober for a while. I was actually about 2.5 years sober once I walked away from this. So throughout that time, I'm growing as an individual. I'm going to these therapy sessions and working on myself, learning to sit in my own thoughts. And I'm over here, being very mindful about where I'm going in life and who I am as an individual. My values and principles has started to develop into a core belief about myself and an identity that I could tie myself to. And being in the music industry and being around these people, those two things do not align. If you're being spiritual, mindful, being aware about your life and what you're doing and trying to improve yourself, that's not going to align with chasing music. And it did not align with that environment whatsoever. It was a shit show. And like I said, now this is getting tied to my income. And I don't care what anyone says. When you love something and you have the passion for it, that's cool. But when you start tying your income and your status and your identity and self-worth to it, it's going to poison something you love. Because now my rent depends on this. If I make one wrong move, my career's over. We see this all the time with YouTubers, business owners, other artists. Like that's a lot of pressure, and it's very draining mentally, and it's just not fun. I didn't like it. Your relationship is gonna change with something. I'm not saying to just flat out never chase a passion, but I do want to warn about what it feels like to start tying your income and worth and everything to that one thing that you loved. It's gonna change your relationship with it. I can't stress that enough. Like, why do you think we see YouTubers, blowing up, getting all these views? They get everything that someone would ever want. And then they pop out with the classic "I quit" video, or they talk about they're taking a break because their mental health is just in the gutter. Oh, that's why we see artists crashing out and just going into psychosis, damn near, and having to go to rehab and all this stuff. We've seen it with business owners too. Not only that, music does not pay very well, and most people don't know what they're doing financially in that industry, right? Spotify is paying like 37 cents. That's all you're getting. You're getting fucking scraps, right? And on top of that, I'm a producer and engineer. So I'm only getting a cut of that 37 cents. And that entirely depends on that, which that's a whole nother topic I could get into that we'd be here forever. But getting into the royalty sides of everything and making splits and placements and all that is a whole messy world too, that it just made me not enjoy it even more. And on top of that, now your passion is pressure. Why do you think streamers like Kai, for example, they get called out or accused of like fake reacting and stuff like that? Because they have that pressure to show up every single day and react to something or stream, and that just doesn't seem like something worth doing. I wouldn't want to sit there and be going through some bad shit in life and really struggling and still have to show up and put on this persona. And I think a lot of passions require that of people when you turn it into a career. And something else I want to say, when people talk about passion, I don't think a lot of people our age know what their passion really is. Or you had something when you were younger and stuff, but it's changed because your passion is going to change when you get older. Your identity is tiny because at 15, all I liked was music, drugs, women, and video games. And there wasn't much depth going on there. When you're 16, 15, whatever, you're not thinking about these things and you don't really have that life experience yet or that much depth to your character. So whatever you like then is going to change dramatically when you're in your 20s. And that's completely okay. And that's exactly what happened to me because I realized I'm a lot more interested in building the life I want now. As I was staying sober and again being mindful and seeing all these new things about myself and then sitting in these environments just not feeling like I aligned with this and not enjoying what I used to love so much, I found much more enjoyment in helping others in building my own life. And I'm not gonna lie, this was really difficult because it was hard for me to recognize this and actually walk away from it because I had tied my identity to this. To this day, I still have people hitting me up asking me if I can work on something with them or do this or do that when it comes to music. And I've had to have some really uncomfortable conversations with these people. And those conversations started with myself because that was what I was known for. That was my identity. The dude who always made beats and worked in these sessions, who is now in LA, is walking away from this shit. And that was really hard to let go of. But I'm so glad I went through it because it changed how I see myself. And it was an experience I'm grateful that I had because I wouldn't have ever known. And I wouldn't have wanted to go through my entire life sitting there thinking, what if? Like, what if I actually went for it? What if this happened? What if that happened? I actually went for it, got very close, found out, and was able to walk away. And I found out I'm just a lot more interested in building the life I want. And that's kind of what led me throughout this process. Like, I still had to support myself, and music just wasn't cutting that for me because your passion is probably going to pay very little. That's another thing too. It's just not. It takes a lot and a lot of luck and effort to sit there and actually monetize your passion. So throughout that time, I started working in behavioral health. I started working with people who struggled with addiction and other mental health disorders, like even just stuff like generalized anxiety and just a lot of the stuff that I see my generation struggling with. And I've gotten to go in on a professional level and help people with that stuff. I found out I actually aligned more with that. I love computers. I've been playing video games my whole life and have always understood computers well. That's why I chose to start studying data analytics. I'm very interested in early retirement, investing, fitness, my relationship, ultimately traveling. That's what I've really found out throughout all this. I love to travel, and that's something I want to do and prioritize and work on the things I want to work on. I also used to make videos when I was younger. So when I decided to step away from this, I was like, I still want to do something. And I was like, I made videos when I was younger. And that's what led me to starting YouTube again and just sharing my experience. I was like, I love to talk about my experience and my story. And, you know, I noticed a lot of people my age struggling. And I just want to share my experience and see if it can help someone and speak my truth. So I have like a bunch of mini identities now, right? It's not all tied to just one thing, because none of these are my singular passion. They're just all pieces of my life, and they're all pieces of the life I'm trying to build now, and they're all moving me forward one way or another, right? I still think you should respect your passions, because I don't think passions are the problem anymore. I think attaching your identity and income and future to it is the problem, and that's exactly what I did, and it soured it for me. What I've really come to learn is that the inner work matters a lot more than just chasing a dream. I would say the inner work is the dream. And what I mean by that is, if I wasn't doing inner work on myself, if I wasn't being mindful and trying to, you know, work through this suffering and let my emotions run through me and grow as an individual, I probably would have settled for staying in music. I definitely wouldn't have stayed sober. I would have given in to all the temptations around me and the things that weren't respecting my journey and my alignment and growth. A lot of people think once they get what they wanted and turn their passion into a career, it automatically means they're going to have everything they ever wanted and they're going to be fixed, and everything that they were struggling with before is going to go away. And that is just not the case. If I wasn't doing that inner work, I would have never found out that, again, I didn't align with this. I don't want to be in this world. Your health and your mindset and overall quality of life is so much more important. And I think that stuff underneath is actually going to reveal what you are truly passionate about, what the crossroads is between something that you're good at and something that you like. And I don't think a lot of people know themselves enough to sit there and coherently tell you what their passion is, why they should chase it, and why it matters. And doing that inner work and prioritizing your health and everything is going to give you the opportunity, well, to chase those things in the first place and actually have meaning behind it and purpose and drive. And you can find a few things too, because again, I don't think betting everything on one thing and tying everything, including your self-worth, to it is going to take you anywhere good. Because again, that shit damn near destroyed me. I ain't gonna lie. For example, I just had a client recently at my job who I was working with who chased his passion and made billions off of it, right? I can't really disclose anything more than that because of HIPAA, but this individual did a startup and everything, and it sold for billions, and it was based off of his passion. And this dude got everything he wanted externally because of it, right? But he never did that internal work. He always tied his self-worth to it and everything, and he's been trying to top that ever since. And he's made it his whole life. And because of that, this individual is struggling constantly with his self-worth, with burning out, trying to top what they did previously. And they're still living in that pressure, in that status mode, instead of just being happy and finding other things in life. Because on paper, this dude got everything he wanted. He became a goddamn billionaire. I mean, who gets to say that? Yet now this individual hates his passion and developed, really scary impulsive behaviors because of it, and never did that inner work. I'll reiterate it one more time. The inner work is the dream, because it will reveal the dream and give you the opportunity to chase something without burning out and tying everything you're worth to it. And I think the question we should all sit with is, what if chasing your passion is actually the thing that makes you hate it? Because people are always obsessing over finding the perfect career instead of building a life they actually enjoy living. I don't wake up every day obsessed with finding my passion anymore. I wake up asking whether I'm building a life I'm actually excited to live. Am I excited to show up and make these videos? Am I excited to invest and study? Ironically, that's actually made me enjoy my passions more than I ever did when I was trying to make a living from them. Because I'll still work on music if someone wanted to. I've been able to actually enjoy it again and do it occasionally because I'm not tying all these things to it anymore. So yeah, that was my experience with it, and I hope this gave you some type of perspective or helped you find whatever it is that you're trying to do with yourself, wherever you're at in life. So yeah, man, if you found it valuable, consider liking and subscribing, and no pressure, but if you want to, come join the Discord. I'll leave the link in the description. We're building this community there of people who are like-minded, just figuring out this life thing together. So again, if no pressure, but if that sounds like you, come join us. And as always, if you made it this far, I appreciate you. Peace out.